opportunity to talk to Brenda, she is just as red as can be. If you have an opportunity to talk to Brenda today or Wednesday, make sure that you give her hugs and kisses and embrace her. She's going to be gone until December. She's going to be going to the Dominican Republic, but prior to that, she's going to have a stopover in Guatemala to learn Spanish. So when she gets back, her and David will be able to talk in Spanish, and none of us will know what they're saying. See if this is going to work. Come up here. Yeah. It's not a very good situation right there, is it? This is my version of, and some of you may know what I'm talking about, hopefully most of you know what I'm talking about, the frog in the kettle. And the story goes that if you want to cook a frog, you put him in water that is tepid, room temperature, and you slowly, ever so gradually, turn up the heat. And the frog will stay in the kettle until finally he just boils. If you turn the kettle on high and allow the water to boil, and then you throw the frog in the kettle, the frog will jump right back out. Or so the story goes. I've never tried to boil a frog. I don't know if that's actually true or not. But that's the way the story goes. Anyway, this is my version of frog in the kettle. Here we have a very patient, I don't know, is that a crocodile or alligator? I never knew the difference. Wait for it. I'm building up the suspense here because you want to know what happens, right? And here's this frog, and he's thinking everything's just fine and dandy. He's like, all right, dude, this is cool. I got a good perch. This is a great place. He has no idea the danger he's in. Y'all ready for the next one? Hey, this is a family-oriented church. So that's as far as I'm going to take this. But I ran across this and I thought, that's a really good illustration. I wonder how I can use that in a lesson. I still don't know how I'm going to use it in a lesson. No, actually, it has to do about change. One of the things that I was responsible for, this is going back more than 20 years, I started working with the government. One of the things that they wanted me to do was figure out ways to implement change, specifically human behavior change, and how to do that without causing a whole lot of problems and issues and pushback, because human nature is that we don't like what? Change. We don't like, just do a little micro study of yourselves. How many of you are sitting in the same seat you were sitting in last week? Just by show of hands, most of you. Some of you did now. But for those of you that are not in the same seat, you're probably causing your neighbor a whole lot of stress right now because you're not where you're supposed to be. So humans are very resistant to change. So one of the things that I was supposed to do is to figure out how you could change behavior in the best possible way. There's a right way to change behavior, and there's a wrong way to change behavior. So I'm going to explain this, and I don't know how well you all can see these lines, but this blue line here, you see it going up, and then what does it do? It starts to fall off. Okay, so this is an example of rapid change. Let's say I'm the boss, I go in, I say, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it, and I want it done right now. And so that gets results to start off with. But you're not going to meet your goal because people are resistant to change. And so they will fight back on that. You see this green line here? That's the amount of resistance. And you can see it runs pretty close to that rapid change. People are going to continue to push back at about the same pace that you push them if you're trying to make things quickly change. If you're trying to quickly change their behaviors. Okay, but look at this red line. Okay? this right here, and up here, let's say, this is just an arbitrary number, 20. Let's say that's what your goal is. That's where you want people's behavior to be at some point down the road. Okay, you implement your change very slowly, just a little bit at a time, and then you can see the steady rise that happens until you finally meet your goal. The frog in the crocodile's mouth. Very patient, very methodical, very slow, one little tiny thing at a time, okay? Step back from it, just let that soak in. Then make a little adjustment to that. Step back, let that soak in. That's it. If you want to change behavior, that's the best way to do it. Does it remind you of anything? In light of our Christianity, I want you to consider for just a second this passage of Scripture. A couple of weeks ago, I was watching our cat. Well, it's actually Caden's cat. And he was stalking something. I don't know what it was, a fly or something. And he was so patient. And he gets down in this crouching position. And you can literally count the minutes go by as he slowly puts one paw in front of the other. Very patient, very methodical. How does Satan stalk us? Very patiently, very methodical. So let that picture sink in. So how does this impact Christianity? I'm going to suggest to you a few things this morning that I hope you'll stay with me on. By the way, this sermon is really about love. Okay, so if I miscommunicate in some way, I want you to just hold on to the idea. This is a sermon about love, bottom line. There's some things that I think, need to think about as Christians. Change is impacting our moral compass. Right has become wrong, as you heard in the prayer. I appreciate those thoughts. There are no moral absolutes, really, when you stop and you think about it. We are being changed as a society, very slowly, very methodically. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about the Supreme Court's ruling because I purposely stay away from social media and Facebook because of all the negativity that's been expressed. But that is not a weekend thing that happened. That's been a 20-year process. I want you to understand that. We are being changed, and it's primarily perpetrated by what we see. The media. They put a lot of ideas and thoughts out there, and they constantly bombard us with how we should think or how we should view things, and they put it forth like this is the majority of the people in the United States. This is the way the majority of the people think. That's not necessarily true, but we become convinced that that is what is true. So media has a lot to do as far as changing society and the way we think. We used to be the gatekeeper, the watchman on the tower. We, in essence, held back the barrage of the world. Our resistance to change has decreased. We are convinced that it is good and okay and acceptable to sit in the crocodile's mouth. So how are we influenced culturally? We have become influenced by our culture rather than influencing our culture. And I want to focus for just a few minutes, because all of this is kind of abstract and psychology, mumbo-jumbo babble. So I want to pick something that I think that most of us can relate to, because in many ways, we are becoming obsessed with and glorifying the immoral. And I want you to think about, just for a second, all of the movies that have come out, all of the television shows, the reality shows, and how completely immoral the vast majority of the stuff that we allow ourselves to sit in front of hour after hour after hour and just allow it to seep into our psychology, our way of thinking. So I wondered, if there was a way that I could actually prove this objectively, not just me up here talking subjectively about, yeah, media, movies, blah, 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 I wanted to know if there was something out there that was hardcore data, information, something that you weren't going to just listen and go, that's Craig's opinion. And as a matter of fact, there is some very interesting research that I ran across done by Dr. Marco Lanzagorta. He has his PhD in physics from Oxford University and is currently a professor at George Mason University. So what I'm about to show you may be shocking, but it is the reality of our culture. So stay with me on this, because this is not my opinion. This is real data that I looked at and I verified. So by the numbers, I want to run some things so you kind of get an idea. And I've picked one area of culture that we can use maybe as a backdrop for a lot of other things that are happening in our society, in our culture. I'm talking about now movies that deal specifically with the demonic and the satanic. Okay? Just this one genre, this one category of movies. So from 1911 until 1950, Hollywood produced 400. Now I want you to note, and I put this up here, this is 39, let's say 40 years of combined production. Okay? The rest of this data you're going to see is only by decade. So from 1960, 309 movies were made. Oh, that's correct. That's a decrease. Not really. We're only talking about a decade there. From 1960 to 1970, 588 satanic, demonic movies were made. From 1970 to 1980, 941 satanic and demonic movies were made. Are y'all seeing a pattern yet? From 1980 to 1990, 1,200 demonic, satanic movies were made. From 1990 to 2000, 1,095. A slight decrease there. But then look what happens this next decade. From 2000 to 2010, 3,300 plus movies of demonic nature were made. This is the shocker here. This is only half a decade, because this is all the data we have. It's only 2015. 5,236 satanic and demonic movies were made. Let me suggest to you all, Hollywood's not making more movies because they just feel like making more of these kind of movies. They're making these kind of movies because we're paying to go see these kind of movies. Hollywood is in the money-making business. And they're saying, wow, this stuff is making a lot of money. And so they're making more of these movies. 4,666 of these movies are currently in post-production. Something to look forward to, yeah? That's a total of 17,821 movies of a satanic nature. This is just one category, but I wanted to underscore what's going on in our society today. These little changes incrementally, and how we are stepping back and allowing it to happen. This is what it looks like if you want to see a visual of the amount of movies that are being made. It's an exponential increase. Would that our Christianity and our growth have that same trend line? This is a trend line for the satanic, not Christianity, unfortunately. Why is this happening? I think there's a lot of reasons, but I just want to focus on 4 very briefly. The first reason, I think, is because we've become cowards, in a sense, and I don't mean that negatively. I mean that You know what the beaten dog syndrome is? You know, you beat a dog enough. At first, you kick a dog and he fights back. If you keep kicking a dog, he finally just lays down. And that's really what has happened in our society today. We have been bombarded with these small incremental changes over and over again. And we resisted at first, but then after a while, we're just like, wow, okay, all right, well, everybody's saying this is okay. We should just probably go along with it. And we lay down. We get complacent. We sit for too long. We really don't know anymore what it means to stand firm. Complacency, that's a scary thing. It's almost like you've lost hope when you become complacent, and that's not a place you want to be. We have I needed another C word, but really confident. What I mean there is we get a false sense of security. We're being deceived by Satan. We believe that simply coming to church 3 days a week is good. That's all we need to do. Nothing else is required. You know, let's just interact within our own little church community and ignore everything else that's going on outside, and everything will be just fine. And you know, just put the blinders on. And then the last reason of the many, but one of the main reasons that I think is because we've gotten comfortable. It's different than complacent. Complacent is just, I give up. All right, just, But being comfortable is when we don't really realize the danger that's out there and we don't have a reason to change. We don't believe or are not convinced that we have a reason to change. I mean, and why change? This feels good, right? This is easy. This is not requiring a whole lot of sacrifice on our part. So why would we want to mess this good thing that we've got going? Why would we want to mess that up? We still have a job to do. Jackson read our scripture this morning. Turn your Bibles back with me. I'm going to go just a tad bit further with this to Ezekiel 33. Ezekiel chapter 33, beginning with the first verse. Now the word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, speak to your people and say to them, if I bring the sword upon a land, and the people of the land take a man from among them, and make him their watchman, and if he sees the sword coming upon the land, and blows the trumpet, and warns the people, then if anyone who hears the sound of the trumpet does not take warning, and the sword comes and takes him away, his blood shall be upon his own head. He heard the sound of the trumpet and did not take warning, his blood shall be upon himself. But if he had taken warning, he should have saved his life. Sorry, he would have saved his life. Verse 6, but if the watchman sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet, so that the people are not warned, and the sword comes and takes any one of them, that person is taken away in his iniquity. But his blood I will require at the watchman's hand. Let me just stop right there, because there's a lot of stuff going on here, and it's kind of, wait, so if the sword comes and then he doesn't, and then he does, or whatever. Let me explain what God is saying here in the words of Ezekiel. We have a job to do. We are the watchmen. We are standing on top of this tower, and we see the enemy approaching. It is our job to take the trumpet. I think they called it a shofar, S-H-O-F-A-R. It's this long, it's a ram's horn back in biblical times. That's the picture that comes to mind. And you blow that horn so everybody knows, the enemy's coming and approaching the gate. Okay, that's our job, to blow the trumpet, to make the sound. And if the people that we are warning about the enemy coming decide to keep on sinning and keep on living in sin, you know what? That's their problem. That's their deal. We've given the warning. We've told them, hey, enemy's coming, you need to change, you need to get ready, you need to prepare. Okay? And if the sword comes, if the enemy gets in and they kill everybody, well, we did our job. Okay? But now he contrasts this in Ezekiel 33. He goes on to say, however, if you see the enemy coming and you do not blow the trumpet, and the enemy comes in because you did not blow the trumpet, those people, all the people that you were supposed to warn, they died. And I'm going to hold you responsible because you did not warn them. Do you get that? Man, you want to talk about a sobering thought. We have a job to do. There's a lot of job security as a Christian. Let me continue, because you need to see the full context of this. In verse 7, let's pick up. So you, son of man, I have made a watchman for the house of Israel. Whenever you hear a word from my mouth, you shall give them warning from me. If I say to the wicked, O wicked one, you shall surely die, and you do not speak to warn the wicked to turn from his way, that wicked person shall die in his iniquity, or in his sin. But his blood I will require at your hand. But if you warn the wicked to turn from his way, and he does not turn from his way, that person shall die in his iniquity, but you will have delivered your soul. This is a serious call for responsibility that God is telling us. It is a very serious task. One that we, I think, are allowing others to do for us and not do it the right way. It is okay to not accept sinful behavior and speak out against it. It is okay not to accept sinful behavior and speak out against it. If we don't, we risk the welfare of all who we might help to save. If we fail to warn them, we have failed our post. Fear of disturbing their peace, that's not an excuse. Fear of offending someone is not an excuse. Fear of being intolerant is not an excuse. The watchman must have the courage to sound the alarm, telling someone of the danger is not hate, it's love. You get that? If I hate you and I see you standing in the middle of a road and a truck is barreling down your way, if I hate you, I'm not going to shout at you. I'm just going to let the truck pull you over. Wipe my hands over. If I love you and I care about your soul, I'm going to say, hey, get out of the way. There's a truck coming. Move. And you know what? If you say, why did you yell at me like that? That was so rude and intolerant of you. That hurt my feelings. It's just crazy. But see, that's the way the world has this all packaged together. We go and we tell somebody, hey, you're doing something that's going to cause you to die. And they say right back at us, you intolerant, hateful person. I can't believe you would say that. And so what we've done, as a majority of Christians, we've taken a step back and go, oh, sorry. I did not mean to offend you. I'm so sorry. And they say back to us, well, you ought to be sorry. You as a Christian, you ought to be approaching me in love and grace. Where's the grace? Where's the compassion? Make no mistake, that's important. We can't go around and bash people over the head with Christianity. There's a difference between taking the horn of warning and walking down to our fellow brothers and sisters who are living in sin and taking the horn and hitting them over the head with it. We sound the horn, and you know what? We're sounding it for ourselves too. Because we're all sinners. It's easy to pick and choose sins that we don't have a problem with. and point the finger. And sometimes we do need to back up a little bit and go, you know what? Homosexuality, it's not my sin. I don't have a problem with it, so it's real easy to point that finger at you. But what about adultery? What about lying? What about addictions? What about, I don't know, fill in the blank, all of the sins that we do struggle with? You know, we need to be viewing this as a team effort. Instead of having this infighting and bickering, we need to view it as a team effort and say, you know what, we all need each other, and we all need to hold each other accountable, and we all need to be blowing the horn, because there is a real enemy at the gate. And the enemy at the gate, it's not the adulterer, it's not the homosexual, it's not the person addicted to drugs. All of those people, they're in the gate, in the city with us. The real enemy is outside of the gate, and his name is Satan. And he's a very calculating, methodical, cold-blooded killer. So how should we respond? And as you can see, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff. I'm not picking on one sin over another. I'm just saying, you know, we're in a society now, hey, it's changing. There's a lot of stuff wrong with the world. Our government, they sometimes get things wrong. That doesn't mean that everybody is bad. That doesn't mean that there is no hope. It means that, you know what? We have some serious job security right now, and we need to step up and do a job and do it the way that God wants us to do it. And it's through love, not hate. It's not being afraid to talk to our brothers and sisters about what they need to hear. And I would hope that my brothers and sisters would hold me just as accountable as what we would hold others accountable as well. First of all, we need to stand firm. We need to stand more firm. We need to engage more. I spoke briefly about, 3 responses of Christians. We're either going to do this is all we do, we stay within our own community, we isolate ourselves, this little bubble that we have. We can be that type of Christian, and woe to us if that's the kind of Christians that we decide to be. We can be an involved Christian, meaning that we go out and we partake in the world. There's that saying, in it, not of it. I love that saying. We're supposed to be in the world, but we're not supposed to be of the world. And that's that engaged Christianity that I'm talking about, where we build relationships with people so we know that they're worth caring about. They're a soul. We need, finally, to love more. And this is the kind of love that's not necessarily, you get a free pass because I love you so much. This is the love that says, you know what, I love you so much that I'm going to tell you, you're sitting in the crocodile's mouth, okay? I'm here to warn you about that. And let me know if I'm in the crocodile's mouth too, because I may need to hear. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit more, maybe just take this the next step further, talk about forgiveness, because it is related to what we've discussed this morning. I do appreciate y'all's attention to the lesson. There's hope. I don't want any of us as a Christian family here to focus so much on what we read in the social media stuff that we just were like, we get beat down about. I don't want that to happen. We can respond to this in a positive manner. And the way we do that is through love. Some people call it tough love, okay? We can't lose our voice. If you're here this morning, you're struggling with sin in your life, you're having a hard time overcoming it, perhaps you haven't obeyed the gospel, you need to be baptized, you need to enter into the salvation that's promised to us, and you can only do that through baptism. If you have a need or if you need to respond publicly for any reason, this is the time to do it as we stand in.
What can wash